Hello and welcome back. My name is Andy, aka the Calibird, and on this channel we talk everything Philadelphia Eagles. Now I know it's been a minute since my last video. Obviously, summer off-season, bit slower time for NFL news, but training camp is here. Recording this on a Wednesday, July 26th. It is officially the first day of Eagles training camp. Instead of just touching up on all the news and notes, I really just wanted to give my thoughts, and I wanted to catch everyone up on some of the positional battles that I see heading into this training camp and what I'm looking for and what I think Eagles fans should be looking for. In the offseason, the Eagles had a lot of departures, especially on the defense. We had 7 starters lost in total, 2 on offense and 5 on defense. So we will get into those positions as well as how I see those shaking out. Now, one thing that can't be understated is the addition of the new offensive and defensive coordinators. So Brian Johnson, who was the Eagles quarterback coach of last season, was now promoted to offensive coordinator. Former defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon is obviously now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. The Eagles had acquired Sean Desai, who was from the Seahawks and the Bears, as their new defensive coordinator. Obviously, we don't anticipate too many changes. However, it is 2 different individuals bringing in their own styles, their own different philosophies, and even schemes. So there will be a little bit of changes, for better or for worse, that the Eagles team as a whole will have to adjust to. So it won't just be a simple rinse and repeat and continue the same thing that we did last year. That being said, looking at the positional groups, starting with the offense, obviously Jalen Hurts, the QB1, signing his 5-year extension, $258 million this past offseason. He had arguably an MVP season last year, if not for a couple games that he had missed, which probably set him back from the running. Aside from that, he is the clear entrenched QB1. Make no mistake about it, football is a team game, but the Eagles will go as Jalen Hurts goes. He made a huge jump each and every year since he's gotten into the league. Exceptional jump this past year, but look to see him build off that even more. Maybe slightly less with the rushing. Teams might be expecting that a little bit more, especially that rugby scrum 1-yard quarterback tush push, but expect him to counter that with maybe a little bit more of a passing game to complement the run. The QB2 position, I see that as Marcus Mariota's. He was the veteran presence that they signed in the offseason. They didn't have another veteran other than him, so it makes sense that he is the QB2. He's also very mobile, similar to Hurts. You wouldn't have to change or vary up the offense that much. However, the QB3 position might be a little bit different. Ian Book has the advantage in that he's been with the team a little bit longer, has a little bit more chemistry and time learning the plays. However, the Eagles did like quarterback Tanner McKee out of Stanford enough to draft him in the 6th round, despite his lack of mobility. Would not be surprised to see McKee beat Book, but it should be an interesting battle. The running back position, the Eagles acquired DeAndre Swift from the Lions in a trade during this past draft. The loss of Miles Sanders will be felt a little bit, but I see the team being able to make up for that loss. For the running back position as a whole, I do see this as more of a split backfield than last year. DeAndre Swift getting the majority of the carries as well as the pass catching responsibilities. Rashad Penny splitting more of the carries with DeAndre Swift, and Kenny Gainwell splitting more of the pass catching responsibilities. Trey Sermon I see more of as an insurance for Rashad Penny, which given Rashad Penny's injury history, he could see some action. But ultimately, I see it as Swift's backfield, occasionally splitting carries with Penny and pass catching duties with Gainwell. Moving into the wide receiver position, A.J. Brown, arguably 1A to Devontae Smith 1B. Where the wide receiver position gets a little bit more interesting is the wide receiver 3 spot. Quez Watkins had an up and down year last year, a little bit more down the later it got into the year. He is still the fastest wide receiver on the team, but he just needs to be a little bit more consistent catching the ball. The Eagles acquired Olamide Zaccheaus from the Falcons. He's a bit more on the shorter side, more of a slot type. I see Quez Watkins getting more of the deep shot targets, Olamide factoring in more of the move the chains kind of third down roles. There's a handful of second year guys as well as some vets and even some rookie free agents that are kind of factoring into the mix for that kind of wide receiver 4, 5, 6 spot. Britton Covey, I look to see to get more action. Look to see if any of those guys are able to separate themselves. For the tight end position, Dallas Goedert is obviously the tight end 1. Tight end 2, you have Jack Stoll. A little bit more just solid, consistent. Dan Arnold, veteran presence, bit of a quiet signing, but he adds leadership, good blocker, and can catch as needed. Wide receiver 3 could be more of a battle for the athletic tight end with upside. Grant Calcaterra, who's that athletic type, who has dealt with injuries, as well as Tyree Jackson, a physical freak in his own right, but has dealt with injuries as well, and is somewhat newer to the position. Right now, I still see Stoll as keeping the job, but would not be surprised to see either Calcaterra or Tyree Jackson take that step. Moving into the offensive line, which I believe is the Eagles' strongest unit. Left tackle, you have Jordan Mailata. Left guard, you have Landon Dickerson. Center, Jason Kelsey. And right tackle, you have Lane Johnson. Where the battle gets interesting is going to be at the right guard spot. Isaac Seumalo was a really solid, consistent guard for the team, but he was arguably the weakest of the 5 offensive linemen, despite how good he was. First day of training camp, Eagles do have Cam Jurgens slotted in there as the starter. He was originally seen as the eventual replacement for Kelsey and could be in a year's time, who knows. But as of now, it is his job to lose, with Tyler Steen, the rookie tackle from Alabama, also kicking into guard as well to battle for that spot. Hopeful that Cam Jurgens and or Tyler Steen can make up that difference. Ultimately, like I said, this is the Eagles' strongest unit, and I have full faith in offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland. Moving over to the defensive line, the edges, obviously Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat have their spots. Tackle, Fletcher Cox is coming back for arguably his last year, and he'll be lined up next to Jordan Davis, who's looking to really bounce back and have a solid sophomore year. He kind of had a disappointing rookie season, especially as like a top 10 pick, but he's going to have a lot of high expectations this upcoming season. Eagles did lose Javon Hargrave. While he may not get a ton of sacks from that position, he was able to create a ton of pressure from that interior. Defensive line depth wise, we drafted Jalen Carter with our first round draft pick. Eagles still have Milton Williams. They brought in Kentavious Street. We still have Derek Barnett as edge rushers, but I am confident in the second year jump from Jordan Davis as well as talent from Jalen Carter showing through. The linebacker position now is arguably the weakest position on the Eagles and is one to be a little bit concerned about. Right now, second year linebacker out of Georgia, Nakobe Dean, is going to be wearing the green dot. He played sparingly last year, but is looking to improve. I'm not so concerned about him mentally having to call all the plays as I am his body holding up physically. Being on the shorter side and being able to shed blocks. He did a great job in college at Georgia. Obviously in the NFL, it's a different level. Everyone's bigger, faster, stronger. Hopefully his body is able to hold up. Where it gets even more troubling is depth of the linebacker positions. Other than Nakobe Dean, the Eagles signed Nicholas Morrow, who was arguably second starter, and he didn't even receive a fully guaranteed contract. It just goes to show you how much the Eagles, their management, kind of value that position. We did lose TJ Edwards and Kaiser White, so we need to make sure that we are able to supplement them with good players. Outside of Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow, there are a handful of depth linebackers: Sean Bradley, Christian Ellis, Kyron Johnson. I would anticipate Howie Roseman signing a veteran free agent linebacker, if not trading for one, kind of similar to the Kaiser White acquisition from last year. Maybe one of the options that's been floated out is Patrick Queen, who's a younger linebacker entering his final rookie year deal. Maybe we can get him for a late round pick. Another name to mention is Miles Jack. He's a veteran linebacker, but on the shorter, more athletic side that the Eagles kind of seem to like. Has dealt with some injuries, but could be on the cheaper side and could make sense for the Eagles. Looking at the secondary, specifically the cornerbacks, The Eagles have some veterans in Darius Slay coming back, James Bradbury, a second-team All-Pro coming back, Avonte Maddox, one of the top 5 slot corners. They signed Greedy Williams to add some depth along the outside. Young Alabama talent Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe, who could factor in. Zach McPherson is still hanging around, but could be a potential cut. We'll see. The safety position is a little bit more unclear. We lost 2 starters in CJ Gardner-Johnson, who tied for the NFL league lead in interceptions last year, as well as Marcus Epps. The Eagles signed Terrell Edmunds from the Steelers in the offseason. He's going to add more of a veteran presence. Expect him to be a little bit more closer to the line of scrimmage. The other safety position could be Reed Blankenship, who had showed some promise this past year, as well as some opportunities for Sidney Brown, who was a mid-round draft pick this year out of Illinois, who's been gaining a lot of buzz too. I anticipate Terrell Edmunds being one of the main starters and Reed Blankenship and Brown kind of splitting time initially until maybe one of them outshines the other. Looking at special teams, Jake Elliott, entrenched kicker, Rick Lovato, long snapper. For punter, Aaron Sapos, it looks like is going to continue as the punter. Seemed to struggle a little bit later in the season. I don't know if that was a confidence issue or actual just a physical issue. Would like to see a little bit of competition there. The kick returner spot as well. Britton Covey should factor in. Punt returner, Boston Scott. Maybe some of those depth wide receivers or backup cornerbacks might be able to add some juice in that spot. That's all I got for you guys right now. Again, it's exciting time. First day of Eagles training camp. We are less than 50 days away. Looking forward to the weeks to come. Positional battles, the new coaching schemes, seeing Jalen Hurts improve even more and seeing the offense grow. Looking to see the new defensive side from Sean Desai. I will continue to update you guys as I hear more news and notes throughout training camp. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. Agree, disagree? If you'd like to see the Eagles add some more players, please leave your thoughts below. We'd love to hear from you guys, and I will continue to update you as I hear more news and information come out. Again, thanks for tuning in. My name is Andy, aka the Calibird, and as always, go Birds. Thank you.